And I see you during carnival, but I'm sure I miss Christmas in the Caribbean. Oh, oh, oh. Hello, everyone. Kayla Moore here. I am a songwriting coach and the author of Your Path to Songwriting Success, 7 Steps to Becoming a Confident Songwriter. Today, I have a very special guest. It is Walker Hornung, and he has this amazing voice. His voice has taken him from alternative rock through soca music. If you all remember him singing with Michelle and a bunch of other soca artists.
That's right.
And straight to singer-songwriter. He's done it all, and I love his voice. And for all the people who have heard him, I'm sure they feel the same way. Thank you so much for joining me, Walker. Welcome.
It's nice to be here, Kay. Good to see you.
Yes, good to see you too.
It's good to be seen. You know what they say? It's better to be seen than viewed. I'm happy to be alive.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for being here. And Walker, can you just tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started into songwriting?
Sure. I was raised in South Queens, you know, in the South Queens area in New York City. I've been living here my
in the house.
Been living here my whole life, you know, right on the Brooklyn border too. So, you know, I come from a big family, you know, an Irish German Catholic family, and loved music. Music was always around the house. My older brother played in a band. Everybody was always singing, and my father passed when I was a young boy, and music was like the thing I gravitated towards after my father died for some reason. The Beatles and these things, and you know, it's what made sense to me when I was a child. And it still does. It's still about the only thing that makes sense to me is music.
Yeah.
So I was just generally pulled towards life. Dragged me to music. You know, music made you feel good. It made you feel sad. It helped you express yourself.
Exactly.
Like when I was younger, you know what I mean? When I was a kid, like most people, the music is what helped me navigate that stuff and become, you know, maybe I was having a difficult, you know, it was the 70s. People didn't, you didn't go to therapy for, like, you know, when you were in this, you know, a 7-year-old back then, you know?
Right.
You kind of just left to deal with things. And I found that the best way to do that was, you know, was music and bands like, you know, the Beatles and David Bowie and these things. They literally rescued me and made me the person I want to be today. So
that's amazing.
So
that is amazing. So Walker, I wanted to talk to you about your soca music, because that's what I remember. I remember going to Trinidad Carnival and watching you perform with Michelle and Ecstatic. I mean, those were the days.
Let me tell you right now, Marshall and Ecstatic, the Ecstatic band back then, this is circa 1998, 99, the early 2000s. That might have been the greatest band that I ever performed with in my life. And I played with a lot of people over the years. I've been singing since, you know, professionally, probably since the late 80s. And yeah, and that band was, I mean, they were unbelievable. I always likened Marshall, young Marshall then, to like James Brown in the height of his career. They would come into town. We'd wreck towns. We would go to Toronto, Miami, wherever we went. I mean, you know,
I could imagine
everything. You felt it. It was palpable. And
you felt it as the audience also. Yeah, oh my gosh.
I didn't even know what hit me. It was like, you know, trying to ride a raging bull, you know.
Right.
I had come out of rock and roll. I used to sing in a band at the time called Q South, and we were a fairly popular band here in New York and up and down, you know, in America. And we were in alternative rock, you know, like we came out of that whole scene with Nirvana and Pearl Jam and them.
Right.
And we were doing well. And I had a friend ask me, who was a fan of Q South, said, "Would you do me a favor and sing on a friend's session in Brooklyn?" And my friend was Lord Pemberton, and he had a friend named Brent Toussaint, who was the producer. Brent was the producer of With or Without You and The Sky Is Falling, and Something About You, which I did with Allison Hines as well.
Right.
And, Brent is he was a brilliant soca mind, especially back in the day. It's easy to see now because soca has permeated so many parts of the world, and you
Yeah.
hear the rhythm everywhere.
Yep.
But back in the 90s, it wasn't as prevalent as it is now. You know what I mean?
Right, and it's still growing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was in its early stages. Hey, I'm sure Marshall would tell you. I mean, what the things that we did together were definitely pioneering in a sense, because we brought it kind of outside of Trinidad during Carnival.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was really just a joy to be a part of it. But I was asked to come and sing on the recording session, so I did. And they said, "Do you think you could sing these parts?" I said, "Of course." And so I sang my parts up here, and Brent sent the recording down to Trinidad, and Marshall heard it and sang on it, and that's how we did the initial track, With or Without You. I had never even met him.
Yeah, and you guys seem like buddies, like from way back in the day.
I mean, it was one of those things. That's why I think of things are meant to be. When something's meant to happen, it just happens.
Yes.
I know a million. I've been in other situations with music where I thought something great was going to transpire and nothing happens. Sometimes it has to do with the stars being aligned right.
Right, the vibes have to match.
Everybody that I've ever worked with is a talent. You know what I mean? Like the guys that play on my rock albums, the producers I've worked with, they're all multi-talented people.
Right.
But sometimes to have just the business side of it go right, you kind of have to be in the right place at the right time. So
exactly,
you have to be prepared for that.
Yep.
And that's how I felt.
You have to be
I think Brent and I were prepared for that moment when it happened for us, because we were already in New York. I was a singer and songwriter, and he was a producer. He had produced records for Little Kim. He'd done some really big things. He really is a brilliant producer. But
how did you meet like Bungie and Allison? How did you get to work with them?
Well, it was easy, because what happened is With or Without You was doing well in Trinidad, and I didn't even know.
Really?
No, I had no idea. I had no connection to Trinidad at the time or anything.
Right, so, there was no social media and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I wasn't getting Sunday Punch and all the other stuff. Right. But they said, "Why don't you come down?" So I flew down with the two guys from my band, Q South, Eddie Klinger and Eddie Joe McCabe, and we landed in Trinidad, and they know me, and they know what kind of music person I am, and I'm always the kind of guy who gets in the car and puts the tape in, or the CD in, or takes over the radio.
Right.
In the cab coming out of the airport in Port of Spain.
Yeah.
And on the radio is With or Without You. And the guys that I'm with are like, "Walker, you didn't just make this poor guy start listening to the song." I was like, "No, it's on the radio," And by the time we got to where we were heading, we were going to Trin City. And by the time we got there, we'd heard the song 3 times on like 3 different radios.
Wow.
We didn't realize how big it was,
Right.
And it was literally like a week before Carnival. And the very next day I landed, we went in and we were at Pier 1, and I was introduced to Marshall for the first time. The song was already out.
Oh my gosh.
And I walked up on stage and sang to probably 20, 30,000 people, unrehearsed. We never did it.
I was probably there in the audience.
I literally walked onto this. He came to me, Marshall, and said, "Do you think that you can do the song?" I was like, "Of course," you know what I mean? And I was digging the vibes, the party was rocking. I was like, "I definitely want to do this." And I went out and I sang that. But once I did that Pier 1 show, it snowballed like crazy. Everybody said, "Oh, you got to see this crazy kid from America."
Yep. It was so different. It was just so
really
different.
Fun. And I'll tell you what, the thing that made it the easiest were people like Lady Marshall's mother was very kind to me, and she treated me like,
okay.
So I was immediately a part of their family. They always treated me well, and they were kind to me, and they were the best band. They were the best band, period, on earth at that time.
Yeah.
Pretty
much.
I mean, so to be able to be in a situation where you're playing with top-notch musicians, to me, is always the best. Like recently,
Keep in touch with Marshall and them.
Yeah, very here and there. It's spotty sometimes. If something happens to somebody, or I still send a Christmas card down to them.
Right.
But life takes everybody in opposite directions. That's the way of the world. And but we performed together till as recently as, I think the last show I did with him was at Jones Beach Theater, and it might have been like 2012 or something. But,
okay.
Yeah, but very infrequently. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
what are you up to now?
Well, I've always had Walker and the Brotherhood of the Grape, which is the band I started after Q South. It was just a vehicle for my songwriting, whatever, I always had, odd taste, and I was always going in and out of genres. And I did some work with the King's Heartbeat. I know Cooley
I know
Chad.
Cooley Chad, great producer. He produced
More
my first Soca song. I'll never forget that.
Great talent. We did a record together called The King's Heartbeat in honor of his studio, and it was a reggae rock album, and
awesome.
A lot of fun. But most of the time I'm doing the Brotherhood of the Grape stuff. Last year, I think, well, this year is almost like it's a wash 2020, but the last thing I did touring wise, I was in England, and I toured with Richard Strange's version of the Lou Reed tour. And I sang a Lou Reed song, but I was also the opening act where I just played with a guitar and did my music, which is always that's the ultimate thing. You're naked with your songs, and that's the ultimate challenge, I think, to a singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
Can you survive there? Mm-hmm. So I think I did well enough. I hadn't done that in ages, but it was fun. I always like to keep just pushing things a little bit,
Yeah. So what are you doing now? I heard you had an album.
I do.
Tell me about that.
I tried to make the most of 2020 by just simply, having so much downtime. You couldn't play live. You couldn't really do it. We had so much. I even run a festival called Rock, Stock, and Barrels here on the boardwalk in the Rockaways, and it's very time consuming. But we had the plug pulled on it, so we had all this time to just kind of do. So I tried to do it. I tried to just write songs and record.
Okay.
I finished an album in November called The Sacred Thing. Mm-hmm. And I had all guest appearances by, some, other people in rock and roll, some friends of mine.
Nice.
Kevin Armstrong, who plays with Iggy Pop, and, but just a bunch of people. I had this wonderful piano player, Florence Sabeva. I also, this girl, Tiffany Lyons, who's a new singer. She sings in a band called Slide Boots, and they're really good. Okay. And she has a beautiful voice. And she did a duet with me. I haven't done a duet. I hadn't written a duet since the one I wrote for Allison Hines and I, That's Something About You.
Oh, wow. So I love that song. Oh, my goodness.
So.
Great. So I just wanted to thank you for doing a demo for me. I don't know if you remember. It was like 4 years ago or something like that. I was like.
Might be longer, but.
Probably.
Right, I know.
Like, who has an amazing voice that could do this for me? And let me just back up and tell everyone what this song was for. So I had a dream, and in the dream, the person singing was Michael Bolton. And
my soul singers.
And I wrote this song, and I reached out to Walker, and he was so gracious and sang that song for me to create a demo for me to send to Michael Bolton. Yep. And let me just tell you, Walker, that was actually the first time I had someone actually sing a song that I wrote for someone else. Normally, I'm singing my own songs. And to hear you singing something that I wrote, I was like in tears. I don't think you knew that. I was like, oh my God, I'm having a moment.
To you, I said, to me, everything that happened to me good in music was through people and associations and people doing good for me. Yeah. So the reason why we did Rock, Stock, and Barrels, for new music, I'm like, new original music. It's the most important thing. We can't listen to, you can, I guess, listen to the Beatles forever. You need things to, to liven it up and bring in, there's so much good music out there. Everybody always says there's no good music, but there's so much.
A lot. You just have to find it.
You just have to look for it, and that's it. So to me, having people being decent to me and me trying to be decent back has been, has opened doors, for me. So I feel like, if there's a way I can help people, especially people who are writing and doing their own original thing, that's the most important thing to me. There's so much.
I so appreciated that. And the song, just so people know.
Sent me something good. So it makes it easy.
Right. And just so people know, the song was called Special Kinds of Love. I think I just sang it myself on YouTube or something like that. It's probably still out there on my page.
Oh, God only knows what's on YouTube. I try my damnedest not to look because, it's not all flattering sometimes, you know?
Right, right.
People are merciless. But listen, the way I look at it is that it's even like when we did when we first started doing the Soca, Marshall and I.
Mm-hmm.
There were people who said I was ruining the music, and I'm just an entertainer. I was just trying to entertain people. The one song I did, "The Sky Is Falling," which was kind of like the flip side to "With or Without You," was the real hybrid of rock and soca. And to me, that was the song that was like, of course, it didn't have legs. I mean, it didn't have Marshall behind it, but nobody could take that away. That's the first rock song, soca song I ever heard. It goes back to '97, maybe '98, and those are accomplishments of mine that that they allow me to sleep at night because I tried at this game. I gave everything I could to music. It's giving back too.
Right, that's so good.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell you about that song though that I did for Michael Bolton, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't think it ever reached him. Mm-hmm. I couldn't reach him like personally. Yeah. And what did happen though, because I'm like so into law of attraction, so I see how these things just fall into place, right? So shortly after you did that recording, and I tried to reach out to Michael Bolton, I'm standing at the bus stop, the Q83, and I see Michael Bolton on the bus, right, on the billboard of the bus, saying that he's coming to sing at a Jamaican concert like 5 minutes from my house. I was like, are you kidding me? Michael Bolton, really? What are the odds of him coming to Queens, to Jamaica, Queens, to sing at a reggae concert?
Right. Where did he play? What's the park over there? I performed.
Roy Wilkins.
Which one?
Roy Wilkins.
Oh, Roy Wilkins. I mean, they have the best reggae in that park. It's crazy.
Yes.
Who comes to New York and Queens, if you're looking in the summertime for where is the good reggae, is right there.
That is where it is.
I sat at Marshall there once, and I think I went to.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and I went to see Bungie there one time.
How did I miss you at Marshall? That's so crazy.
Bill, but it was a reggae bill with it was Sizzler and all these great reggae, real good dancehall artists. Well, that was another thing that was beautiful, was being able to, like, when I was out touring, we would be the only soca band sometimes on some of these world bills, and we would play with like other world musicians, like people from like Senegal or African musicians, and they would be on these bills, and they would be called like world bills, where
world music,
I said, and so I got to see some just great people, and I forget about the dancehall artists. There were so many of them. I did so many bills with people like Sizzler and Buju and all these these great icons.
Yeah, exactly.
And then even people like Calypso Rose and and the Mighty Sparrow. I mean, like, he was my friend. How many people say that they were friends at one point with somebody like Mighty Sparrow? I feel blessed,
That's so amazing.
That is. It really was. It was an amazing ride. And
I was going to ask you about that. So with the law of attraction, right?
Yes.
I believe in you putting your desires out there and believing that it's going to happen and allowing it to happen. And then life takes you on this journey towards your goal. But it's like the magic is in the journey itself.
I always
tell me anything about like your journey that seems magical to you?
Absolutely. And I said, I always go back to David Bowie. I always get everything from my earliest memories and like things. I'm always David Bowie. And David Bowie's the perfect example. In the early 70s, he did Ziggy Stardust, which he was this character, and they called it self-actualization, I think is the term, where you think of something and you think like, I'm going to make this happen, and it manifests.
Yep.
Well, I always felt like that because, I mean, I come from love, but I didn't come from money. I didn't come from advantage in life. But I always believed like that. I'm going to do this, and sometimes that's enough, like you believe and you make it happen. But you have to be prepared. And that's what you were talking about, songwriters. And the best way for success to happen is to be prepared for it. If you write an album and you're in the studio recording it, work on your second album while you're recording the first one, because God forbid anything takes place, you're going to need to have something to follow it. And you just have to be prepared for success when it comes your way. There are times I'm sure I missed the boat, you know what I mean? But fortunately I don't realize, I don't remember if I met somebody of great importance that was supposed to do whatever my life was supposed to be. Here it is, and I'm completely happy with the way things turned out, because I make music, I still make music, And that's all I ever wanted to do, you know?
That is so awesome.
Yeah, and
So,
then to have a history like,
what was that?
no, and I said, and to have a history in soca the way I do, you know, it's unique in a sense, you know, and
Yeah, it is.
I'm honored by it. You know, they gave me an honorary Trinidadian passport back.
Really?
You know, I think that's great. You know what I
That
mean?
is great.
You know, I think of it when people say, oh, they'll see me in the street, I'll run into Trinidadians in Brooklyn and stuff, and they'll be like, Walker, you're going home for carnival. You know, they ask me if I'm going home.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, yes.
You know, and that's what it feels like, you know, Trinidad. Haven't been to Trinidad though since 2009 or 10. I'm due to get back down there.
Yeah, I'm due for a trip too. I think the last time I went must have been like 2014 or 13, something crazy like that.
Yeah,
That's
and I
crazy.
mean now, you know, now with all this COVID
Yeah, I
madness,
don't know when I'll be going there again.
that's a thing too. I don't think people realize. I said with the musicians, it's very difficult because we're not performing, and you know, but we have other streams of income by writing songs.
Yeah.
What I'm really concerned for through all this are the people who work in like stagehands and people who do, you know, do the concerts themselves, the promoters.
Right.
The promoters are having a hard time. The clubs are closing. It's going to be a very difficult thing to claw our way out of once this is over. So, you know, the best thing people can do is really get out there and support music because
exactly.
You know, imagine life without music. Yeah.
No, that would never happen. I don't think. I think now actually with people being home more, they have the time to actually put into writing songs, or if they even have the desire to do it, they can put the time into learning it. And like you said, preparing yourself for the
I say, I'm like, what's your excuse now? If you
exactly.
write, if not working all year or whatever it was, and you had all this free time, if you didn't do it this year, find a new hobby or find a new passion, because you know this is enough. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I'm stockpiled. I couldn't. I don't even think I can record all the songs I wrote during this COVID thing. You know, some of it I have. You know, I have another album coming out in February called The Beekeeper, and that's with other musicians. You know that I work with in the my Brotherhood of the Great projects. You know, either you have something to say or you don't. You know, and that's it.
Exactly.
So I'm sure one day I'm not. You know, it hasn't happened yet. I'm still a mouthy guy, and I got a lot to say, and I have my opinions of things. But if you write about people and your relationships with people and the world around you, it's unlimited. You know,
exactly. It is unlimited.
From so.
Yeah. Do you have any tips? I mean, you gave a lot of tips already, but do you have one final tip maybe for an aspiring songwriter or a songwriter who is afraid to take that next step?
Yes, I do. And it's as simple as this. Yeah, you have to write about what you know. Whether you're playing soca music or you're playing rock and roll or you're playing you really just have to draw from the most basic inspiration, you know, whether it's death or love or your family, or if you're political, from the politics around you. You write about the thing that you're most comfortable with.
Right, because you have to feel it too.
Yeah. Whenever you start trying to which was always my concern. I said, I never wanted to, in Trinidad, did I ever want to feel like I was a put on? Like I never went down there and sang like a Trinidadian. I always sang the way I did. I mean, you know the music. So it was just always me singing my voice, you know. I never wanted to get on, you know, try to pretend to be a soca singer.
Right. You have to be yourself.
You know, definitely. A rock singer who sang soca, you know.
Right.
Right. You know, I just tried to stay with what I knew. And I think that's always the best solution. I said, once you try to do something that's putting people on, people get it. And they say, oh, you know, this isn't authentic. It's not good. You know,
you feel it.
Right now is a lot, you know, it's gentle and soul filled, and it's more, you know, it's more ballads. And so that's how I feel, you know. You know, I can't help that. So that's the way I have to write. You know, write how you feel. That's write what you feel and how you feel.
Yeah, thank you for that. And can you tell everyone where they can follow you on social media and where they can get your album and your future album, all that kind of stuff?
Sure. Well, I have a great a website called www.brotherhoodofthegrape.com, which is my personal website. You can go there. That has all the soca, all the King's Heartbeat, all the rock and roll, Q South, Brotherhood of the Grape, everything my voice is ever on is there. And we have like our concert dates there and everything, you know. And you know, I'm on all the usual suspects. Facebook, I love Facebook. I don't know why, but I always like Facebook because I love watching people's children get older and, you know, you get to see things, you know, so if you want me, I'm on Facebook. I'm pretty easy to find. I'm not hiding from anything or anyone. I'm just singing my songs and trying to entertain people like I always was, you know, make people a little happier, you know, help people get through the tough times like music did to me when I was little.
Right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been an amazing treat, an amazing conversation. And I just want to let everyone know, if you're ready to take that next step in songwriting, definitely reach out to me. You can send me an email at kaylamour04@gmail.com. That's KAYLAMOUR04@gmail.com. And we can set up some time to chat and see how I can help you take that next step towards your songwriting success. So thanks again, Walker. I appreciate it.
See you later. Have a happy holiday.
Songwriting. Happy holidays.
You got it. Ciao.
Take care.
Merry Christmas from Mr. World.